Patlabor the movie entered production after the success of the OVA series. Talks of the movie began in early 1988. Mamoru Oshii was reluctant to do a movie, and he was working on another project when, while in the bathroom, he got some inspiration. I was in the bathroom when I suddenly thought about a story involving an ark in Tokyo Bay, with something like the Tower of Babel concealed inside it. And wouldn't that be enough for us to make a movie out of? And the protagonist is named Noah too, come to think of it. When that last point hit me, then it all came together. Oshii was now on board, and the rest of Headgear came along as well. Kazunori Ito writing the screenplay, Masami Yuki, concepts, Akemi Takada, character design, and Yutaka Izubuchi with mechanical design, with Shoji Kawamori rendering assistance. Kenji Kawai also returns to compose the music, making this his third collaboration with Mamoru Oshii. The film was animated at Studio Dean with assistance from IG Tatsunoko, which would later be called Production IG. Kazunori Ito was involved with this movie up until he finished the screenplay, then went on to do the Patlabor TV series. The film opens with a man falling to his death, with a big happy grin on his face. Who is he and how is he related to the rest of the story? We will soon find out. This opening sequence is actually really cool. It's the first time we see military labors in action. They're being deployed to take down another military labor that has gone berserk. Once they are successful, they discover, however, that there's nobody in the pilot seat. Creepy. We cut to some of our heroes from the second unit, Asuma and Noah, heading towards a location called the Ark, which is a huge facility that handles maintenance for labors who are being extensively used for the Babylon Project. Now, for those of you who don't remember what the Babylon Project is, here's a clip from my previous video to explain. The Babylon Project is primarily why usage in labor skyrocketed. The project was to build a seawall to protect from rising sea levels and to reclaim land.
It'll seal off the entire Bay Area, build giant sluices, and over the course of 50 years reclaim that land, solving the metro area's land problems in one blow.
With lowering sea levels and ongoing land reclamation, 10 years from now, over 45,000 hectares of land will be reclaimed inside Tokyo Bay. Land shortages won't be an issue for Tokyo in the 21st century.
Noah and Asuma, apart from being given an opportunity to check out the Ark, are going there to escort Commander Shinobu Nagumo back to SV2. She is there testing out a new labor called the Type 0. Noah is not impressed.
How about that, Noah? This was worth the trouble of coming out here, wasn't it?
I don't know, Asuma. He's not really my type.
What? I made up an excuse just because you said you wanted to come see this thing, and that's your attitude?
I never said that. Don't you think he looks like a bad guy, too?
It's the first labor designed from the ground up to run on Haas. The Hyper Operating System. Haas is the new operating system that Shinohara Heavy Industries released 2 months ago. It's a quantum leap that makes even pre-existing labors 30% more productive just by upgrading the OS.
Upon returning to SV2, however, Nagumo receives some bad news. The training for her officers with the Type Zeros has been extended by 1 week. This is a problem because the SV2 second unit, Goto's unit, has been on call repeatedly dealing with rampaging labors, and they're overworked.
2 days ago, an experimental military labor belonging to the JGSDF 7th Corps went berserk while undergoing wind tunnel testing. They had to deploy their prized airborne labor units in order to stop the rampaging labor. The cause is unknown.
But what does that have to do with our situation?
The rampaging labor was manufactured by SHI. And just like the Type 0, this labor was designed to run on the new operating system. And what's more, supposedly the labor was unmanned during the rampage.
The second unit doesn't have time to worry, however, as they are called out to deal with another rampaging labor. And it's similar to all the other incidents, with the operator stating that the labors started moving on their own. And thus, after rescuing the pilots, Noah and Oda have to completely take the labors apart in order for the rampages to stop.
What?
What? What the hell is going on here? Prepare to meet your maker!
Operation complete. Target completely destroyed.
Rebooted? A labor that shut down started back up all on its own without operator intervention?
I saw it myself, and I have a hard time believing it, too.
Maybe you just imagined it. You've been called out so successively, no one can blame you.
Thanks to a little bit of subtle nudging from Commander Goto, Asuma starts an investigation into the malfunctioning labors.
You do excel at getting people to do your bidding for you without them knowing it.
You have a vested stake in this too. It's linked to your Type Zeros.
He discovers that in all the incidents surrounding the malfunctioning labors, or the rampaging labors, mind you, every single one of them have been upgraded to Haas.
But over 80% of all labors have now been upgraded to Haas.
Yes, but we also shouldn't disregard a 100% match like this.
But the only way to know if there is anything wrong with Haas is to look at the source code. But Goto tells Asuma that Shinohara Heavy Industries will not release it.
The government pencil pushers that approve OS aren't dimwits. If there is a bug, they'd find it. The flaw in the Haas would have been detected during the comprehensive debugging phase. Shinohara Heavy Industries released Haas as an innovative OS with the aim of cornering the market. If it turns out that the OS was actually a flawed product, then it could fatally cripple the company. But what if Haas, as an operating system, was completely free of bugs? In other words, what if labors running amok are not a result of some OS error, but rather an action deliberately programmed within the operating system?
Then Goto invites Commander Nagumo to read the profile of Eiichi Hoba, the man who programmed Haas almost single-handedly.
Registered address unknown, personal history unknown, family members unknown, distinctive physical features and medical history unknown.
All of his records were missing from Shinohara's HR computers, as well as all of his records from school. Everything on him's gone.
On top of that, they can't bring in the man to question him because he's dead. He jumped off the Ark and they were unable to recover his body. Yeah, and Eiichi Hoba was the man who jumped off the Ark at the beginning of the film. Apart from asking Asuma to be quiet about the Type 98s being upgraded to Haas, which actually isn't true, we'll get to that later, Goto lets Asuma join Sakaki on his way to Hachioji in order to do some more investigative work. Through admittedly not so legal channels, but we'll get to that too. Sakaki is there to meet an old friend, Mr. Jitsuyama, who actually made a brief appearance in the 5th and 6th episodes of the OVA. Sakaki questions Jitsuyama about Haas and suspects that he's hiding something.
I'm not here as the head of the maintenance crew to meet the supplier's factory foreman. So I want you to be frank with me when I ask you this. That Haas you have out, tell me, is that software kosher?
We put our company's whole reputation on the line releasing Haas. It shortened the construction timeframe of the Babylon project by 30%.
That is not what I asked.
It's absolutely safe, and I personally guarantee it.
Asuma, after finishing copying the information he needs, discovers a Haas master disk. He enters it into the computer and, well, this happens.
Huh?
It just keeps on spreading. We have no idea how.
Cut all the power to the central server immediately. Don't forget that all of our factories are interconnected. You hear me?
That idiot.
Well, that's not alarming at all. Over 8,000 laborers in Tokyo are running with that program installed. And Asuma suspects that Shinohara Heavy Industries haven't cracked the code yet, and thus they have no idea the extent of what the damage could be. We then cut to a very atmospheric section of the film, 3 in total, in which Detective Matsui and his partner, as they go through old neighborhoods, backtracking all the times in which Eiichi Hoba moved. This is pretty unique because, like the action sequence at the beginning of the film in which the second unit has to take down that labor, this offers Mamoru Oshii a chance, with a bigger budget, to fully display the city of Tokyo in animation, at least as it was back in 1988. Taking advantage of the fact that this is a movie and it has a bigger budget, he and his crew went location scouting. They took a ton of photographs, and a lot of the locations that they took pictures of actually did make it into the feature film. I like this. Combined with Kenji Kawai's music, it gives an eerie feeling of traveling back in time. But seeing all this also comes with the knowledge that it will all be gone. From what I understand, from the Meiji Restoration in 1868 to pretty much now, Tokyo and other parts of Japan, but particularly Tokyo, is in a constant state of change. But the change really seemed to kick off in 1963 in preparation for the Tokyo Olympics, in which the city underwent a massive urban renewal, which, to my knowledge, still seems to be going to this day. The Shuto Expressway was built to lay the infrastructure to handle the anticipated mass motorization of society. In the process, numerous canals and horse-driven paths that had survived since the Edo period were buried. The streetcars that crisscrossed Tokyo beginning in the 20th century met a similar fate, and were over 90% gone in 1972. One after another, concrete posts were driven into areas rich in history and atmosphere, such as long stretches of the banks of the Sumida River, thus eliminating the traces of Edo that had always connected Tokyo to its former name. Something like this also happened in the mid-80s and early 90s. This period saw the wholesale eradication of historical pre- and post-World War II structures. They were replaced with a riot of postmodern architecture, regardless of whether it fit the Tokyo cityscape or not. Now, I have only been to Japan once in my lifetime, and I was only in Tokyo for about a day and a half. And when I was there, apart from the most absolutely significant historical landmarks, I did not see a lot of other old buildings. I especially didn't see any from the pre-World War II era. This is largely, I believe, due to the limited space in Japan, particularly in Tokyo. So in order to fit in apartments and other places that might have been considered important, they have to do away with the old. I realize that I'm probably not the first person to make this observation, and I'm certain I'm not. But Tokyo seems to be a city that is constantly forging ahead towards the future. But in order to do so, it has to bury the past, whether it wants to or not. But depicting the city was something that Oshii was really eager to do, which is why he did the location scouting. Depicting the city of Tokyo was something I wanted to do in the OVA series. You can see traces of that in the first episode, the part where they're on duty in Ueno Park. That was actually in the second, but okay. But that was something I wasn't able to fully explore in the OVA series. So this time, I was compelled to go all out in a movie. The problem is, you can't depict a vision of the city just by drawing pictures of it. You need to extract your own views of the city from the way it actually looks and depict that vision. That's why in this movie we went location scouting down a river. As it turns out, location scouting is less about finding scenery you can use and more about finding that unique perspective.
もともと近未来を想定した映画っていうのは、いわゆるこう SF じゃないんですよね。僕に言わせれば近未来という形を借りて現在を描くっていうのが、王道なわけで。ということは現在は現在のまま語るっていうのはすごく難しいんですよ。それこそドキュメンタリーの世界になっちゃうわけで。でもそれドキュメンタリーの切り口になっちゃうとどうしても見えてこない部分があるわけですね。自身そこに飛躍を施した時に見えやすくなってくる風景っていうのがあると思う。
In another way, I can imagine for the Japanese that this movie functions as a unique time capsule. Since I imagine nearly all of those old buildings are gone, pictures and film would be the only way to preserve the memory. Mamoru Oshii would do this over and over again, using the scenery and cityscapes in order to help depict his ideas, such as in Patlabor 2, using the eerie quiet of the city under martial law in order to explore the idea of peace, or even in Ghost in the Shell 2, with Togusa and Bato walking through that city in the midst of a celebration in which dolls are fully prominent. Getting back to the movie, Matsui and his partner are asking questions as to why Hoba would even move over 20 times before killing himself.
Ever stop to think it might be the best way to hide your tracks living in a city like this? The buildings get knocked down by constant development. Any buildings still there are pretty much in ruins. Can't ask questions if no one's around.
This from a man who deleted all his information from his employer's systems as well as his alma mater overseas?
Maybe he was showing something off. Maybe he wanted to show something to those snooping around trying to find more. Well, it looks like we're gonna have to play along a bit longer to find that out.
After conducting further investigations into all the concentrated areas where laborers went berserk and coming up with no leads, Goto tells Asuma to take a break. So he and Noah go out for pizza. Oh, and I need to point out right here that on the television here, and in one other instance in the film, the word Babylon is spelled wrong. Just something funny to point out. But it is here we get to see a side of Noah that we never saw completely in the OVA. She loves machines. And by machines, I mean she loves labors. Not only does she feel bad that they have to continually take apart the ones that go berserk, but she's worried about the one she rides, Alphonse.
How's Alphonse been doing lately?
He's doing fine. He's great. Alphonse is always in top condition. Mr. Sakaki and everyone else in maintenance does such a great job taking care of him. He always does exactly what I ask him to do. He's not going to go berserk. Everything's going to be all right, isn't it? I mean, Alphonse won't go on a rampage, will he?
She talks about Alphonse as if he's a real person. Oshii describes Noah as a kind of analog thinker, whereas it seems that everybody else is moving towards digital thinking.
っていうのはさ、いや普通のロボットと根本的な違いっていうのは、一番最初にその入る時に伊藤君なんかでも確認し合ったのは、要するにパソコンだよってね。ライバーってのはパソコンと一緒だって。器は要するに汎用機であって何でもできるし、意思も持たない。だからそこに大事なのはだからそのソフトとの関わりだっていうね。そのシステムとして考えれば。普通のロボットとまた違う人間との関わりが出てくるんじゃないかって。だからノアでなくたって太田が乗ったってその自分のデスクをねスロットに入れれば途端にもう太田の愛機になっちゃう。なんだけどどっかでノアだけど自分の機体はこれじゃなきゃダメだっていうアナログ人間だけどねノア自身は。実際にはそれのアナログ的な意思がデジタルに変換されてフロッピーっていうかそのデスクの中にソフトとしてどんどん蓄積されていくっていう過程になるわけですね。
Sakaki is another man that is an analog thinker, as was shown during his chat with Jitsuyama at Hajioji.
They may put me on some pedestal about being the god of vehicle maintenance, but with software, I'm just another neophyte. I can't come close to keeping up with Shige and the younger kids. I'm just telling it like it is. One thing's for sure, no matter how fancy or advanced the technology gets, One thing don't change. People who make them, people who keep them running, and the people who drive them. And as long as the people don't mess up, the machines won't mess with you.
But this also gives an interesting question. Should we stick more with analog, which can be more tedious, but it's actually in our hands and in some way safer? Or should we go to digital, which is faster, but comes with a new set of problems, often ones we don't understand until the problems actually hit us? While eating, they see a dog reacting to sound, probably picking up a frequency that humans can't hear, and this gives Asuma an idea. He leaves Noah at the pizza place, that jerk, and goes to see Mr. Jitsuyama at his home, and starts asking him about the frequency that causes laborers to go berserk.
Tall skyscrapers with large atriums that act like huge whistles. They create low frequencies when the wind blows past them. The cables that hold up the bridge must act like a giant humming wind harp. Sounds only the sensitive sensors of laborers could pick up. They've always got a bunch of laborers working in urban areas as well as in large construction zones where you can easily come by these kinds of sounds. Dad was up against hefty competition and jumped at the chance of monopolizing the market, so he was easily hooked by the bait, Haas. Now he's in a big panic because he figured out how he's been conned.
If the word were ever to get out that SHI...
Sooner or later, someone is going to reach the same conclusion.
Asuma gets back to HQ and he's in trouble. He's being suspended for 2 weeks for the following:
AWOL from the station while on watch, intruding on a private residence and forcing a confession with blackmail, unauthorized use of the section's mainframe, and heeding the petition of Commander Goto. I've decided to handle this matter quietly. I suppose you would like some sense of closure. Late last night, the president of Shinohara Heavy Industries made a report to MITI, indicating that a major flaw has been discovered within Haas. The government called an emergency cabinet meeting this morning. The cabinet has accepted the proposal forwarded by Shinohara to begin rewriting the OS of all labors back to their original versions.
What about Shinohara Heavy Industries' liability in all of this? They get off scot-free while I get my ass handed to me!
Investigative work isn't for resolving family feuds!
Like you have the moral high ground
personnel
here.
are
You
not
know
to
damn
conduct...
well...
But despite being suspended, Goto still encourages him to continue the investigation. If reverting laborers back to their original operating systems would solve the problem, then why would Hoba kill himself? Unless he had something else up his sleeve. Mr. Shige, Sakaki's assistant in the mechanical department, returns from overseas and reassures SV2 members that he never installed Haas in the Type 98s.
I threw in a dummy activation display, and then I sent the diskette back to them. I didn't care how good it sounded. I wasn't going to install an OS we knew so little about. When I got an international phone call from Mr. Goto, I told him all about it.
He knew if he kept quiet about it, Mr. Asuma would work tirelessly to solve the case. Actually, it does sound like something our commander would think of.
Meanwhile, Mr. Matsui, continuing his investigation, manages to go all the way back to the house that Hoba was born in. And there's another Bible quote there.
He bowed the heavens also,
and came down, and darkness was under his feet.
Methinks the man has a god complex, and I'll explain later.
This big old place we're living in now, it's one real strange city, that's for sure. The feeling of being left behind by a rapid passage of time kept on nagging at me. Street corners I knew just rotting away, turning into ruins. And if I looked away for even an instant, they'd vanish into thin air.
Well, not that long ago, the very spot where we are now was out there in the middle of the ocean. And in a few more years, a huge city will rise up from the sea right here in front of us. That, too, will become an expendable relic of the past, just like everything else.
For those of you who don't know, reclaiming land is something that is a reality in Japan, and it dates all the way back to the Edo period. It is land that has been artificially created by filling in or extending a body of water, such as a bay or a coastline, using materials such as soil, waste materials, sand, and rock. While we may associate reclaimed land sites with negative connotations of garbage disposal, it has played an important role in urban areas, providing essential services such as securing harbors, securing residential areas for the growing urban population, and providing land for factories. In recent years, we've seen an increase in condominiums built on reclaimed land, such as bay and seaside areas. This is because industrial and warehouse areas, previously occupying those locations, have been abandoned and redeveloped as residential areas. Since developers find it difficult to purchase large tracts of land inland and the large inexpensive lots, these reclaimed areas are perfect for them to begin new developments. In the film, of course, the Babylon Project with the Ark and laborers are used for land reclamation. There's nothing like those in real life. The closest thing Japan has is the Tokyo Bay Aqua Line, a toll road connecting the city of Kawasaki in Kanagawa Prefecture with the city of Kizurazu in Chiba Prefecture. First opened to traffic in 1997, the Aqua Line runs under Tokyo Bay on the Kawasaki side and above the bay on the Kizurazu side. In a sense, it is located where the first stages of what would be the Babylon Project would have been built. And the Umi Hotaru Rest Area, an observation deck located in the center of the Aqua Line, is referred to as the Ark by Japanese Patlabor fans. Goto and Nagumo start talking about Hoba. They mention that when he was at MIT, he got the nickname Jehovah, which was something that apparently delighted him. They also mention that in all the areas in which his previous homes were located, were also in all the berserk-prone areas that Asuma discovered. Hoba is an interesting villain. He's long dead, and yet his presence is everywhere. And while the movie doesn't give an exact motive as to why he's wanting to destroy Tokyo, or at least not one explicitly stated by Hoba himself or any other character, there are things that an audience member can piece together to draw their own conclusions. Here's mine. He basically views the city as being disposable. With the constant redevelopments, destruction of old buildings and parts of its past, he sees that inevitably all the new buildings that will be put up will be destroyed in about 30 years anyway, so he thinks to himself, why not? Let's just destroy it in one fell swoop. Thus he comes up with his plan, whose full diabolical nature will be revealed in just a moment. He even went so far as to move to older and older areas, places that will be destroyed, to make way for new things, in order to prove his point. He even went so far as to erase his history, as a way of saying, this city's history no longer matters, so why should mine? Everything will be rubble soon anyway.
Day after day, he looked out onto the skyscrapers, scheming endlessly over his crime plan, working out the details. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. He had total and absolute confidence in his own program. Or else, he wouldn't have killed himself without confirming its outcome.
It also helps that Eiji Hoba is never shown at any point in the movie, thus adding more weight to his menace. There were character designs done of him in pre-production. Here it is. Or some of it, mind you. These images came from the Patlabor the Movie Archives booklet that came with the 2006 limited edition release here in the United States. Oshii stated that, coming up with good depictions of bad guys is difficult. The only way I can think of to break the mold of the typical bad guy is to keep him anonymous. So in this film, the decision I made was to have a bad guy with no face, no depiction of his lifestyle, and no traits as an individual. The anonymous presence that is Hoba worked tirelessly to erase all traces of himself in order to impose his worldview. That's my vision of what a criminal mastermind would be like. It doesn't matter if it's a corporation or an individual. If the target exists in reality, then you can confront it. But you can't win against someone that's already left for the netherworld. He eliminated his own existence in order to make his crime foolproof. I think this is similar to the vague and uncertain terror posed by computer viruses today. This whole concept of the antagonist missing from all the action was an idea lifted from an unmade Lupin III movie that Mamoru Oshii was attached to. In his film, Lupin would be absent from all the proceedings, and it would feature a thief that steals fiction, or that turns everything upside down so that nothing at all is certain. But his ideas were considered too complicated, and thus he left the production. Asuma and Shige, after running numerous wind tunnel simulations to try to see how far the malfunctions will spread, eventually discover that resonance helps the sound carry and run more simulations with that. They test using the arc as a center point in which the sound resonance will be carried. So using the data that Asuma got from Hachioji, they run the simulation, and it's horrifying.
What's the wind velocity for this?
40 meters per second winds?
To make matters worse, a typhoon is approaching Tokyo. And with the right wind speed, the arc will function as a giant whistle, causing over 8,000 laborers to go berserk and kill a bunch of people. And not just the ones above ground, but also those in underground facilities and nuclear power plants. While it is true that MIT is analyzing the Haas program, Goto realizes that they just simply do not have time to wait for results. The arc will have to be dismantled. And Goto, using his powers of persuasion,
a deactivated labor may very well boot up on its own because of low-frequency vibrations. Please recall the case with the Self-Defense Force's experimental labor.
You've gone far enough, damn it!
If something were to happen as a result of a typhoon, no matter what it might be, nobody would be held responsible, now would they?
I agree. An act of God cannot be helped.
The SV2 second unit will board the Ark and dismantle it. Oh, and Konica Clancy is coming along too. Fan service. Before I continue, I have to say that Goto is probably the most interesting character in this series, and he's probably my favorite. He looks like the kind of guy whose personal life is a total mess, so he devotes himself to his work. But as Mr. Matsui puts it,
why is the CIB snooping around at the request of the Security Bureau? Who is this Goto?
They call him Goto the Razor. He's notorious at headquarters.
So how did a sharp guy like him end up right in the middle of reclaimed land?
Well, you know, he was just too damn sharp.
He gets the job done, even if the outcomes may not always be the best, especially in this situation. Because if they sit around and do nothing, 8,000 laborers will go berserk, and questions as to why this criminal plot was allowed to move forward will be on everybody's minds. But if they dismantle the Ark and still not find any criminal intent in Haas, then they'll still be criminals. So they have to pick the lesser of two evils. But this kind of also works in another way. Hoba with his plan kind of wins in one or two ways. One, 8,000 laborers can go berserk and raise hell across Tokyo, or the Ark will be completely dismantled, thus bringing the Babylon project to a screeching halt. Either way, he kind of wins. The second unit boards the Ark.
Doesn't this place make you guys feel kinda uneasy?
Feels like a pagan shrine full of idols, huh? A fitting stage for a man who would adopt a name like Jehovah.
And the first thing they have to do is fight off guard robots.
Come on, cannon fodder! I'm here just for you!
Look, just try to conserve your ammo! We don't know what to expect!
Roger!
They get to the control room and start their work, but apparently according to the Ark computer, Eiichi Hoba is at the top level. So Noah has to go and investigate, but she has to hurry. In order to dismantle the Ark on time, pieces of it will be dismantled as she is making her way there. MIT has successfully cracked Haas and... yeah, it's dangerous.
Criminal intent through and through. Not only would the code infect the backup memory systems, but it's able to change its name and infect anything it can get access to. Frankly, any computer that's had contact with Haas would be considered infected. The people at MIT are already starting to work on a vaccine program, but I doubt it'll be ready in time.
You said any computer with contact on its own or through another computer. What about the main computer system that they're using to dismantle the Ark?
As Noah is making her way to the top, the Wind Resonance activates more security bots, and they just keep coming and coming. Konica boards a Type 0 to use it, despite the danger involved.
But a dormant virus might still be in there!
Even left on its own, it's a potential threat. And Ota's labor isn't going to be able to hold back the Horde alone. Go for broke. I'm gonna risk it.
Noah gets to the top, and there's nobody there. Just a shit ton of birds. However, as the wind starts to pick up, Haas takes control of the second unit's computer, the one they were using to dismantle the Ark. So now, in order to complete the mission, they have to purge all areas at once. And just in time too, because Oda and Konica are quickly being overwhelmed by guard robots, plus Haas is taking control of the Type 0.
30 seconds after ignition, all floors should jettison in rapid succession.
Ignition!
The Ark has been completely dismantled, but it's not over yet. The Type 0 is still active, and Noah has to find a way to defeat it without killing Konica, or Kanuka, whichever. In this particular English dub, they pronounce it Konica, but in the OVA, they pronounced it Kanuka. Sometimes I use them interchangeably, I don't really care. Oh, and speaking of the dub for this movie, it's not bad. It was one that was recorded in 2006. I know an earlier one exists from Manga Entertainment, but that one was so much worse. I prefer the one I'm using.
Abandon your labor and run, Noah. It's supreme in hand-to-hand combat. What about the boot disc? I pulled it out. I reset it after removing the disc and it still won't stop. Where's it located? Same as your 98. Behind the neck.
Through a series of pretty ingenious maneuvers from Noah, she uses a shotgun to defeat the Type 0, and well, in this fight, the analog-minded person comes out on top. And yay, happy endings all around. As I see it, Patlabor the movie is incredibly underrated. It doesn't get talked about enough, so I'm glad I talked about it. The animation is top-notch and the action is superb. The story and mystery are all laid out in a satisfying way, while playing fair with the audience. And it touches upon a fascinating aspect of Japanese history and society, which was really fun to uncover. And the music is great too, just serving to remind me how awesome Kenji Kawai is. And overall, I just love the story and characters and love seeing them in a well-made feature film. Now, I have to admit, I am biased when it comes to talking about the Patlabor franchise. Since the movies, that is, 1 and 2, were my introduction to the franchise, I've always considered them the best. And after rewatching all the other installments, that is except the live-action versions, which I'll get to later, I still consider them the best of the franchise, especially Patlabor 2, which I cannot wait to talk about. So yes, watch Patlabor the movie. I highly recommend it.